Hi, yes, hello. Welcome to the place of wrath and tears. We are well populated tonight as our intermission ends and our main stage show continues again. Um, this is a cult Divinity Lost actual play set in the atomic glory of 1957 Las Vegas, where three people consistently play some of the worst people we've ever met, and one of them plays one of the worst monsters we've ever met. Um, these are the Van Horsts and the Red Lady. If you have picked up recently, our Red Intermission, our side story has just finished, and now we are returning back to the story at large. So let's do a quick introduction. Let's start with Samara, and then we'll briefly meet the Van Horsts, and then we'll meet the players, and then we'll meet the Van Horsts.
Yeah. I'm Samara, and if you've watched the Red Intermission for the past few episodes, you will know me as the Red Lady.
I'm Elon, and know me as Matthew Van Horst.
I'm Erica, and I play Clara Van Horst.
And I'm Kate, and I play Bethany Van Horst.
And I'm Ben. I tell horror stories. So, and we are supported by the lovely and fantastic Curtis, whose success rate is easily in the high 90s, and whom we are infinitely thankful for, because this would not be happening without him. It literally would not be happening without him. So, please be nice to your back of the house and join the Patreon. Damn it, he deserves coffee he likes tasting. So, just a couple of refreshes on some of the content warnings that we hit on a little bit more hard with the Van Horst than we did with the Red Lady. Rampant capitalism is a portion of the story, as is some serious fucking super gross gender roles and patriarchy and weaponized Americana, I think is a term that we used before.
Yeah.
There is some what did we say? Adoptive incest.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
We try to keep the slurs to a minimum. I used one during the Red Intermission, and it still bugs me. So we're going to keep them to a minimum, and then that's generally it. Aside from body horror, hallucinogens, blood, death, terror, maggots crawling in and out of things, genocide,
Yeah.
madness, magic, light genocide, occupational genocide.
Love bombing, C cult tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah, some CULT shit. So just we've always strove. We always strive to model good on-screen consent and check-in techniques. I'm just going to say that before we start with this, the appropriate players have checked in for romance as part of their story, i.e., love bombing and gaslighting and all that stuff. So, does anybody want to say anything before we get started, or shall we re-enter? All right. St. Dymphna's was a hospital a while ago. Now it is a mycological nightmare, when it was under the auspices of continually unnamed and now quite thoroughly forgotten collection of doctors and nurses and at least one creature that was using the thinness of the illusion to tell the future. It had a mild to severe case of hallucinogenic mushrooms. In the meantime, the Red Lady, thanks to David, has taken over St. Dymphna's. from a combination of radiation, some of it from David's blood, some of it a gift from radium, and the Red Lady's influence. The mushrooms have bloomed into new and as of yet unimagined shapes, textures, and toxicities. And so as we go into St. Dymphna's, imagine the bad hospital. You know the one I'm talking about, the older hospital, not the turn of the century lunatic asylum, but the next one. That the bad hospital, if you remember some of the classic movies, going back into the 60s and 70s and 80s, The Hospital. This is that, with lots of tile and smooth laminate floors and what used to be stainless steel, now very thoroughly stained. And we see bits and pieces of this place growing. But right now, I think I'm going to hand it to Samara because she would like to tell us about her pet project, or at the very least, the Red Ladies.
Yes. One of several rooms that the Red Lady has claimed as the sort of central sanctums of her new abode. One is the pediatrics wing. She specifically has chosen the waiting room foyer to turn into essentially a ritual chamber. The mushrooms and growths here are particularly potent on the walls. There were once very childlike paintings on the walls of flowers and a big cartoon sun and things like that. And the mushrooms have almost kept to that design. Their colors have changed slightly based on whatever paint they absorbed beneath it. So there is, to a degree, still a cartoon sun and still large, perky flowers, but made entirely of perhaps poisonous, perhaps hallucinogenic, perhaps something else entirely, mushrooms. They phosphoresce faintly, adding an even more sinister glow to what is naturally a low candlelit room, because it's spooky, and spooky is fun. On one wall, there has been a contraption built. It looks almost like the bat signal from old strip comics of the Batman. It is a giant Fresnel lens, a 6 foot across green lens in a stand, a wooden stand that has been painted black and held aloft. So it is upright. Upon that lamp, right across the body of the lens, is a crucified figure, its eyes glowing with a similar green to the radium glass that the lamp is made of. That person, if one looks closely, beneath the cuts and the nails and the ritual marks and the blood, is a Bethany. One that looks like she has been physically unhealthy for nearly as long as she has been mentally unhealthy. She is staring blankly ahead of her, beyond the central desk area where a nurse or a receptionist probably sat at the opposite wall. And in real time, the mushrooms on that wall look like they are unwrapping. They are rolling themselves away to reveal the blank wall beneath. To one side, the Red Lady stands, waiting for the next step. On the other, a very well-dressed and put-together David has set up, improbably, a lounge area. He took one of the tables from somewhere else in the hospital. He found a few chairs. He set various relevant accoutrements upon the table. And the two of them stand on either side of this nightmare lighthouse. waiting for their charges to come home. When the mushrooms have fully vacated the wall, the red lady steps from where she stood and puts her tail in front of the camera. And she removes a piece of chalk from the folds of her dress, and she draws a very normally proportioned door. Just very simple on the wall, 2 sides and a top. And for good measure, because we love Beetlejuice, a doorknob. And then she steps back into her place and waits for the door to open.
Like most times that the illusion is torn, it is impossible to find the moment. You cannot say, ah, there it was. You just have to say, there it is. You can never mark it on your watch when the change happens, but it has happened. This door, very appropriate for where it's reaching to, is a beautiful piece of marble. This is the door of a crypt. It is that beautiful, almost perfectly white marble with the little blue veins through it that almost look like noble flesh. And the handle is ancient brass, and it turns very slowly and opens. And into this space, another space is connected. The cold, empty, microbe-free air of the underworld billows out and caresses the floor in a not noticeable but very real heat exchange. And stepping first through that door, a skull, still with a few licks of blue flame as it slowly disintegrates in her hand, is the opener of the ways, Clara Van Horst.
That worked. Oh, thank God it worked. All right. And she steps out of the door and kisses the skull as she consumes the last few bits of blue flame, and any soul that was left in that skull is gone because she has taken it into herself. And she comes the rest of the way in the room. You did it. It worked. It worked. And she's looking behind her. I don't know how long it'll stay open.
Next through the door, I will leave her to say what her mental and physical state is, however. I will add one thing. With one eye still holding the radium green light of the lighthouse, matching and opposite her tortured twin, is Bethany Van Horst.
Bethany doesn't stumble, but it feels like she should. And instead, the floor of the hospital catches her, and she is walking smoothly through this door, the green in her eye fading slowly to violet. And she's just staring with almost the same focused expression as her very, very tortured twin at the walls like she's seen them all before. But also not. And maybe she's seeing something that isn't there, and maybe she's seeing what's always been there.
And 3 is a sacred number, and one we will be touching on many, many times tonight. And so the third member of this family, Matthew Van Horst, steps through and returns to what could easily be called close to his realm, breathing strange air, but the air of Elysium again. Matthew, how do you return home?
Matthew's clothes are rumpled, his arms scratched, he has had a time. But he strides into this room like he's walking into the boardroom of an office. He strides in knowing that he has before him his two powerful sisters leading the way, and he seems to have not lost a whit of that air of confidence and control that he so craves. He sees the walls where they are and and clearly has the moment of remembering exactly what he has gone through in this place. And there's a moment where the only panic that can be sensed from him is how he shuts himself down to be a rigid statue so that nothing can see any weakness behind his eyes.
David, at this point, steps forward and says to Matthew, "All is well, sir." This place is at least neutral ground.
And the door closes behind them in a slow, graceful arc that feels like closing of a tomb. Feels like it takes hours, but it is just a moment. And the green light fades from the figure on the lens's eyes, and she slumps forward, barely conscious, held up only by rope and nail. And as she does that, she is instantly forgotten as the Red Lady sweeps forward and envelops Bethany in a kiss that is a claim of territory, a declaration of passion, a desire to consume. It is fuck the world, fuck the universe. This is what I want right now.
Bethany is obviously returning it, but also just very incredibly pleased.
Clara very gently wraps her arm around Matthew's and gives his good hand, a little squeeze, and doesn't stare at her sister. Is kind of like looking away, trying to give her sister a little bit of privacy to do that thing.
Bethany might now be slightly more obnoxious about it, remembering all of the times that she's had to deal with Clara and Matthew.
Yeah, there's definitely a vibe of like Matthew's like, well, I am certainly not going to look at that because that would be weird. And while there is a very intense reunion going on right over there, he will reach out with the hand that is not being held by Clara, the hand that is not human, and put his hand on David's shoulder and say, "You did well."
You could say after a couple of drinks that the glow that David gives off is actually visible. But he smiles and he inclines his head with a very familiar childhood memory of old world politeness. He says, "Thank you, sir." Please, I have seats over here and some drinks and a few refreshments. It isn't much, but I imagine that you'll want to have a moment now before we return to the hotel in your due time.
Please let us then. And he will lead Clara over, expecting that Bethany will come over when she's good and ready.
Chili.
Yes.
There is no sort of any sort of thought of rushing her is clearly not there. And in fact, when he goes to sit down, he leans just for a few moments, taking the time that he is given by Bethany's passion to just have some moments being able to lean against Clara. They are finally at least back in a place that is not trying to actively
Kill us.
and aggressively kill them. But they are not home.
But you could see home from here, which is better than you were the last place. So
There is a level of, though they are not home, he is with his family and they are safer than they were, and that is home enough.
Clara makes it to the chairs, but only just. Like, she held her shit together to follow the light that Bethany was seeing and get them and open the way, and she's still trying to figure out the best ways to open ways and how much she has to consume to do it, and she did it. She held her shit together until this moment, and then her knees just go, and she kind of like collapses down into a chair and is slightly shaking and leans very hard against Matthew, and really, really, it's weird because this is the moment she would normally want to hit, but Bethany ate that part of her psyche and she hasn't figured out how to fill it in again. So she doesn't know how to relax. She just kind of clings to Matthew and tries to take a few deep breaths and not cry or scream or go into a full panic attack. A drink would be lovely, I think.
In fact, Ben, what items are on that table for the Ben Horsts?
There is all the food and all the drinks are still sealed. So while it isn't like, it's food that he bought or food that is kind of like pre-made things, because this isn't where you prepare food.
Yeah.
So but there is brandy and that hideous ginny herbal liqueur Genever that is a family tradition. There's like some sodas. There's some bottled water there. A few snacks, both like sugary snack. Like it's literally whatever David could find in the 1950s that was prepackaged that he could bring here that wouldn't go weird. In the I don't know how long this is going to work, but I'm going to stand here until it does plan. There are also, of course, several ashtrays, and Clara, there is for all as much it matters now, there is a very nice and very extensive and very clean and like still wrapped in plastic or sealed where it could be an entire everything one could possibly need to shoot heroin is there in the nicest, in like it laid out very nicely as if it was the silverware at a fancy dinner.
Matthew will actually reach out and he will pour three glasses of Genever, and he will take out a cigarette and light it, and then pass that after he's sucked in the air to get it lit to Clara before lighting his own. And there's a sense of a almost mirrored possessiveness in how he does this. The way that he is setting things up and choosing things for Clara to have to be able to get that comfort is one of taking care of not only someone that he loves, but a precious belonging.
Okay.
It's
Let's
patriarchy.
Yay! Welcome back, patriarchy. We didn't miss you.
Did not.
Welcome back, patriarchy. We were aware that you were gone. And speaking of aware that you were gone, let's take a moment back to the lovebirds. Has anyone come up for air? At least one of you doesn't need to breathe, so.
I think at this point they will break apart, and the red lady rests her tall forehead against Bethany's, and it's not easily visible, but Bethany can tell something in the red lady's energy is deeply exhausted. There is a weariness to her aura that has not been present any of the other times they've interacted in person or via some mental link. She is tired. And she wraps one arm around Bethany's waist and looks up towards everyone else and says, "Welcome back. Make yourself at home. Mi casa es su casa."
The moment that Bethany senses that exhaustion in her, there is a very quick flash of concern across her face. But she doesn't ask any questions because she doesn't know what the right question to ask would be. And so instead, she just also then slips her arm around the red lady's waist in such a way that should she need to or desire to take support in some way of her weariness from Bethany, it's available.
Thank you.
David's
Oh, there we go.
David's response to this is very weird. He is enthusiastically not looking, but it's not like that's gross. It is absolutely that very patient, blank-faced servant face of, oh, they're changing, or oh, they're indisposed. Just I will recognize their existence when they tell me it is time to recognize their existence, sort of thing. But in the meantime, he does hover over Matthew and Clara in a way that could almost be considered doting. He's definitely can I get you anything? Is there anything else that you need here?
Clara empties her glass shouldn't shoot Jennifer, but she did, and just holds it up for Matthew or David. She doesn't care. She wants more alcohol. She wants to stop shaking. And she's gently leaning against Matthew, she is leaning into that protectiveness and is happy to be taken care of because she does not think she can take care of herself right now.
Matthew will gesture for David to refill her glass while he gives her a kiss on the temple. And he will then look up over Clara's head right after doing that to the red lady, say, "Thank you for sending the beacon."
More than happy to. And your manservant is a treat. We've had such an adventure these past few weeks.
I can't wait to hear about it.
How long has it been?
Ben, how long has it been?
That's a very good question. I was thinking about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Not so long that the world has gone spinning off of its axis in your absence, but enough that we can have a little bit of
that about tracks with what I thought.
Yeah, wiggle room to get everything right back in place. So
just over a fortnight you've been gone. There was And she looks over at David. Quite a concern.
It feels both longer and shorter than the time should have been.
Oh, I can imagine. Would anyone like anything to settle the nerves?
Beyond booze and cigarettes?
Yes. And she gestures to the room that is full of mushrooms of every species.
How effective are they?
Highly. Whatever you need.
Clara just looks to Matthew.
Something perhaps mild enough to take the edge off without overwhelming the senses.
Of course, of course. And she, in an odd mirror of Matthew's gesture, gives Bethany a kiss on the temple and then releases her and sort of in her usual slightly over the top way, swans over to one of the walls, makes a selection of one mushroom and a second mushroom. Moves over to a table where there is a very small mortar and pestle and puts the two in and very quickly grinds them up. And then over to Clara, and she presents a sort of small ball of organic material. It's like, not tasty, but fast acting.
Down the hatch, washes it down with some more booze.
Almost immediately as it starts to digest, she can feel a sense of calm washing over her. That shake starts to still. The panic starts to subside.
That's nice. Yes. That's much better. Oh. Thank you.
Of course.
During this entire encounter, as soon as Clara takes the little ball, Matthew is just doing that thing where he's watching her like a hawk to make sure that they're not doing some sort of like nefarious trick, while trying to make it seem like he's not watching her like a hawk, trying to see if there's a nefarious trick. So it's like, it's sort of like very like, I am casually just looking over at Clara with no ulterior reasons.
The red lady, after she has given this concoction to Clara, looks at Matthew and then, I see where David gets it. Not to worry. All of you are perfectly safe in my home. I understand your suspicion, but you needn't.
When the red lady released Bethany to go begin the whole mushrooms thing, Bethany finally went and sat down with her siblings and claimed her glass. But picked a place to sit that was, while next to the siblings, also the closest that she could be sitting to where the red lady was. She is continually aware of her presence in the room, wherever it is. Like she could find her with her eyes closed. And she, sits and sips her glass and looks back at the red lady and says, thank you.
Of course. And she pours herself a drink of the brandy and then stands next to Bethany's chair and sort of has one arm leaning across the back of the chair so that her hip is next to Bethany and has the drink in the other hand. Well, cheers, everyone. You made it back.
Cheers.
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 Oh, I think the brandy next. Yes. I thank you. That call hadn't been sent. I don't think we would have. I'm getting used to opening doors, or I think I know how to do it better. I've been able to replicate it more than once now. That's the way to put that. But I don't know where they're going. Without a direction.
Then it was good we built our lighthouse. And for the first time, if the Van Horsts look closely, the person that is part of the lighthouse is not dead. There is a very slight movement as it inhales and exhales. Probably not conscious, but likely still alive.
Matthew looks at the other Bethany with that sort of careful sort of, now that he's able to be calm enough to register things, now that he's sat down, he's had something to drink, he is able to piece together, oh, I see exactly. I know that face. And there's a moment where he looks at it and the pieces of not person slot in. This is not my Bethany. This is not person Bethany. And he looks over at his dear older sister and says, "This is one of yours."
Yes, it's one of the me's.
He looks confused. I just didn't know whether or not there was something that you needed to do what you usually need to do with it.
If it's of no more use to you.
Certainly not to me, but if I may recommend, it might be of use to all of you. As your power grows as a family, you will need to continue to strengthen your connections so we can do things like open doors and know where they lead. So, and she's sort of casually stroking Bethany's hair with that hand that was on the back of the chair. So if you wanted, it could be something for all of you to engage in.
Is that possible?
Of course.
Engage in, do you mean consume or use for magical energy, power, focus?
The whole process is a little bit of both. It's splitting hairs to try and explain it in too much detail.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if there's much of a difference.
Well, Bethany has dibs.
I'm sure we can all share. Doing things is exhausting.
Yes. Yes.
It's probably the best choice. It just isn't something that I've done before.
Isn't it exciting to experience things for the first time?
I've been
There's also
doing that a lot
looking at
lately.
David for a moment and seeing how he seems to feel about this or not.
I will give it to you because you have spent a lot of time around David. His opinion is powerfully negative. Like he has the face of just like, nope, don't like it. Not my place to say, but I hate the hell out of this.
Don't like that.
Feeling.
Yeah. Like if you could imagine just David making the Sam the Eagle face, that's pretty much it.
David, you don't think this is a good idea.
Oh, the hunter killer never thinks anything I suggest is a good idea until it happens. Blessed child.
You two took a trip, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Do you think it's a bad idea because you are being overprotective? Or because it is an actual physical danger to us?
There is always a danger. That's a given.
He was asking David.
I think now you have all seen David kind of have a mild obsession with Bethany. Usually it's kind of a violent sort of like protective serial killer kind of thing. But when he looks at the other Bethany, there is nothing. There's like a terrifying cold void of nothing, a trained nothing when he looks at it. And he says, frankly, ma'am, it's sick, it's dirty, and it's polluted. I wouldn't serve it to you if it was a pig.
Good point. Thank you for being honest. But power is power, and considering where we have all been and how very tired we are, it's probably not worth wasting power.
As you say, ma'am.
There is no power more potent.
That's so.
How do we do this?
And she looks down at Bethany lovingly.
Bethany has leaned into her, like as much body contact that isn't very obviously like slouched over on her, but like pressing every bit of body contact available into her. Well, I just reach out and find that power, that aura, that soul, and pull it away.
And the red lady just looks pleased as punch, just absolutely chuffed.
Just untether it. You don't have to take all of it, obviously.
Matthew will get up from the table, gently pressing a kiss to the top of Clara's head, placing his empty cup down, and he will walk over to the body. And he will look into his not sister's face. And he will gently reach out to cup her chin. Because if he has learned anything, it is that Bethany works on instinct. And he is not a creature of instinct. But if he hears something and he integrates it into his knowledge, maybe he can try. And he will try to eat a soul, I guess. I guess that's what we're doing now. He's like, guess this is my life now. I don't know if he can.
I think that like I don't want to start this part of the game's first crazy idea with a no.
Well, no, it's okay if he tries it and it's just like, no, you need like Bethany to start the process, or no, you just can't, or anything like that. But he's just kind of like, well, They seem to think it's possible.
Yeah, that's probably the right vibe. Is it like,
Yeah, which is fine. Like, he just kind of looks at her and he like looks into the eyes and like she's unconscious, not the eyes, but like looks into the face and looks back at Bethany and says, I don't think I have the power to do that.
Okay, you can watch while I do it, I guess.
well,
We'll
there's
support you in whatever way we can. If that's involves watching, that's an aspect, I guess.
upon consideration, Bethany, there are generally two steps to this autophagy or whatever bad Greek we came up with.
Yeah.
There is the take the soul out, and then there is the bring the soul in.
Yeah.
So maybe if you roll plus soul
Alrighty.
and get a decent roll, you might be able to interrupt that process midway.
Yeah.
And
oh, well, that's brilliant because I rolled a 19 and my soul is like +4.
okay.
So yeah.
So do you do something? Is there, are there somatic components with this?
I mean, Bethany gets up and goes over to the not her and looks down at this very unconscious, sickly, abused thing and says, been very helpful, thank you. You can be done now. And reaches out and brushes her hair away from her face. And as she does that, because it's almost always some amount of physical touch that happens, like she's pulling the soul away, the aura away from this body, just sort of brushes this sad, radiating bit of life off of this other Bethany. And as always, it hurts. So
the magic itself doesn't look like anything to Clara and Matthew, but the various mycelial specimens along walls seem to react to the presence of something occurring in the room. There are slight shifts in tone and hue and quality of light as the phosphorescence sort of ripples out from where Bethany is doing her work.
The soul that comes out of this body is a sad, tired, undersized thing. You can see and feel the tatters of it, of its damages and its traumas, and the way its brief, painful life have chopped out pieces of it. And when you pull it free of its body, it doesn't feel like pulling something out. It almost feels like peeling something away, as if they're just barely connected by surface tension. And maybe if it was stronger, this would have been more of a struggle. Maybe if you were weaker, it would have been more of a struggle. But tonight, it just comes right out, like the claw meat of a lobster. And there is a moment now where you have a piece of not you, but you in your hands, and you can do something with it if you want to.
Is anyone hungry?
Yes. But I've consumed in this way before. Matthew hasn't.
Matthew has a look on his face that's very much the sort of like, I am not sure how much I want to have this experience, but also like that sort of feeling of like, I don't want to say like FOMO, but like that thing of like, I am the only one here who has not eaten a soul. Man, I've fallen behind my older siblings in a way. The syndrome of the forever syndrome of the youngest. And so like that's sort of like a sort of flash of emotion across his face until he eventually reaches out a hand to Bethany.
Clara.
And yes, Bethany will take Matthew's hand and then feed him, essentially. Look at his own soul, find a place where feels a little thin, maybe wants a little shoring up, feels a little worn down and empty, and puts the bit of Bethany soul, not Bethany soul, in there.
This is fine.
And the place she puts it, if I may, is in the hand of Metropolis metal.
Mm-hmm.
In the hand that she made for you in a place that was not here, and cast it around the sense of a missing limb. Because that will always be, no matter how well it was made, will always be kind of a improperly sealed piece of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so she presses it into your hand in a very particular way, and you feel something crawl through your hand and up your arm and then disperse into your shoulder and across your chest, the same way an anesthetic, the beginning of the knockout feels, but instead of numbness, there is a particular vibrant fire to it. A little piece of something that burns on its way through.
He will, after feeling that, give Bethany's hand a little squeeze, reciprocation. There's nothing going through it other than, affection. And he will look at the Red Lady, say, our goals and yours, I don't know how they align. I know that you care about Bethany, but what about the rest of us?
We are, thankfully, in complete alignment.
What is it that you want?
I want to see you crowned in glory, and all that comes with that for Metropolis.
And he looks around at all of the mushrooms and the wildness of this place. Why us?
You are best suited for those crowns.
I'll agree with that. We were, Claire?
No,
Does
Right.
Clara partake of this soul before we get too much further
Yeah.
away from that?
yeah.
Then yes. Bethany will, yes, also look at Clara first and be like, do you want to try or do you want me to feed you?
And Bethany has the whole soul. Like the other Bethany is down, out, dead, as far as we
Yeah.
can tell. Yeah, okay. I don't want to hurt you and everybody I've eaten from already. I think I've killed. I can try, but I don't want to hurt you.
You should learn control, maybe?
Ah. Have a feeling that is something we've been saying my entire life.
Huh?
All right, just put your hand out.
Bethany holds out her hands.
Clara tries to reach out for it, tries to imagine what that bit of energy is, and just that bit, instead of entirely consuming it, entirely overwhelming the person as she normally does. And the way Clara feeds is inspiring love and obsession and devotion to her. And so that love that she already has for Bethany, she knows that Bethany has for her, that's what she's reaching out to touch. She knows that she can take this energy because it's being offered out of love and loyalty to her. It's just a far healthier love than Clara has with her audiences normally.
Yeah.
Should I roll or just
Let's roll plus soul.
Okay.
At it.
Oh, it's 2d10s. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, that's a middle. That's a 12 total. So
Okay.
That's fine.
not awful.
You could have done better. You could have done a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is a hole inside of you that occasionally ghosts like to crawl into now, and stray thoughts and bad dreams. And so you managed to avoid this little bit from crawling in that spot and causing you trouble. But you do know that the efficiency of your action could have been better. Yep, it's been that kind of a day.
Yeah.
Or the efficiency of your action could have been a little bit better, but you also take it into you. And much like Matthew, except with a different kind of context, you feel not heroin numbness entering into you, but a burning effervescence. And both of you almost, now that I've thought of a better way to describe it, almost feel as if you've been slightly peeled. As in there's something that has gotten between the layers of you and has started to separate things. It is not comfortable, but it is invigorating.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good neutral word. It is invigorating the same way the Finnish massage with the branches and everything else, and then dunking yourself in the lake. I mean, you're done and you go, I'm very awake and I'm ready to take on the world, but dear God, what a process.
Yeah.
So you feel that.
Okay. I think that worked. You're all right. I didn't take too much.
No, it's not me yet.
We can do it. We can all do this.
One degree or another, yes.
And your bond to one another and to the truth ever deepens.
Is that this feeling? Is that starting to shuck off the lie.
Do
I'm
you
just
feel
talking
it?
out loud. I'm drunk and on mushrooms and feel better than I have in days, but yes.
Oh, you're not on mushrooms. That was barely an anesthetic. If you want to be on mushrooms, we can arrange that, but perhaps not tonight.
I have a feeling we have a lot of cleaning up to do.
Yes. We learned from this that we can't simply throw the lie to the side. We need to find out how to use it as a tool, not get rid of it entirely.
Indeed.
You know Metropolis is messy right now.
Oh, yes.
Taking those thrones is going to be a difficult process.
Yes. There will be enemies at every turn, as there are here even in Elysium.
And why do you have any interest in Metropolis? You're clearly a woman, a thing, a creature of nature. Metropolis is metal and steel and technology and fire and pretty much the antithesis of this entire lovely room that we are in.
David snorts and it sounds like a diesel engine backfiring.
She looks at him with an amused little quirk of her smile. That's one of those, like, I could elbow you in the ribs, but it's more fun when you offer your opinion. It is such, but it has the power to change. I am a creature much older than mere nature. I have simply chosen what aspects of myself to focus upon as I exist here within the illusion. In my truest form, I am more and less. In Metropolis, I am more and less, and I would see Metropolis changed.
That is certainly something that we wish to do.
Indeed.
There's just adoration on Bethany's face, like she's not really saying words.
At this point, the red lady almost imperceptibly has circled around to Bethany again and has an arm draped over her shoulders.
Yeah.
The red lady is tall. She is easily the tallest person in the room. And the way she towers over Bethany is at once beautiful and worrying.
We appreciate the help, and it does seem that our causes are aligned. But I will tell you that when we take thrones, we will serve nobody else's cause. You know that.
Do I look like I want to rule? I assure you, I do not. And I assure you that the forces allying against you in Metropolis, I want to see defeated just as much as you.
Then we're well aligned.
Lovely. You must know there are forces against you here as well.
Certainly have seen many of them so far. We'll just are at this hospital.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Oh,
this space is mine.
That's good to hear. If we're going to gather our power here, we're going to, so that we can use it there. We're going to have to deal with enemies on both sides, I suppose. I have some ideas where to start, but we'll want to go over those strategies together.
We need to check in at home, Matthew.
Yes. Part of consolidating power and part of what we need is back in Pittsburgh. We've been here for a very long time.
Well, unless you need help cleaning up, and Claire's just kind of looking at the dead Bethany, we should probably go. We should get back to the hotel. We should change. We should call home. I want to shower and get out of these clothes, and there's work to do.
There certainly is.
As curious as I am about you two's adventure, is there anything we should know?
And she looks at David as if considering how best to answer the question. And what she ultimately says is, there is someone here who knows my true name. And that makes them dangerous beyond measure to me, but also to you, as I suspect they are opposed to your goals as much as they are to mine.
Will they be able to bind you then?
Oh, no, not yet. They need far more power than they have thus displayed if they want to bind me.
Have we tried using a gun?
Not yet. They work from the shadows.
So finding them is also part of that.
Indeed. I have suspicions, but nothing concrete as of yet. But they defiled one of my previous sanctums, as well as attacked me personally. More than once. And she looks at David a little bit reproachfully. There is clear something passes between them in that moment.
Matthew just raises an eyebrow at David, like, want to share with the class kind of look.
There is a body language to service, and he uses a piece of it of that, like, I will tell you later. Like, I'm not refusing to give you information. I just want to tell you and I'm not here.
All right, then. I suspect you know where to find us, or at least Bethany.
I do indeed. However, I must put myself to rest for a time. The past fortnight has been taxing. So I may be indisposed for a time. Perhaps days, perhaps weeks, perhaps even months. I don't yet know. But if you truly need me, come here physically. And I will be aware of you as you approach the door. It will awaken me from my torpor. My beauty sleep.
Your beauty sleep, of course.
Once you're awakened from your beauty sleep, you know how to reach us.
Of course. By telephone or by direct methods.
David, Matthew, shall we get the car ready and let the two lovebirds say goodbye?
How could
If
I
I
deny
may.
as such?
If I may for a moment, please, before I get the car. David stalks over to the red lady and just kind of pauses and honest to God puts his hands on his hips like a farmer.
She half mockingly, half sure, let's play a joke together, returns the gesture. Hands on hips, but very ladylike.
And then he just holds his hand out for a shake.
And she gives him a hearty handshake. Just pleased as punch.
And the last thing David says to the red lady before he goes and brings the car around is, if I find any more Mormons, I'll send them your way.
You're a dear.
And just like he never says, I'm sorry, he doesn't say thank you. And turns and starts to walk towards the door, standing at the door waiting for those of them that are leaving now.
She gives him one of those waggled, like, ta-ta fingers.
Matthew gives the red lady one last look and one last sort of nod of sort of appreciation.
She
And-
offers the very slightest, like, mid-50s curtsy. That slight lowering of the whole body.
And then he looks at Bethany. And he gives her like a small smile. And in that, it's very much like, for just like one moment, one little small moment of these two adults who have gone through so much. He is her little brother, giving her a little like, go see doing some stuff. Okay, I'm gonna go out. Smile. And there's that like sort of very like deep feeling of like siblingness at them.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, because this is the first time, even when it's, you know, with an eldritch monstrosity, that he has gotten to see Bethany have something that he has always wanted her to have.
Yeah.
And then he will gently take Clara's arm and he will wait for her to do whatever she wants to do before she goes.
Take another shot of brandy, grab a pack of cigarettes, and leans against his arm. Is like, all right, I'm ready for a shower.
Very good, man.
They will head out.
And yeah, David leads two of the Van Horsts to the car and civilization and running water and feather pillows and silken linen sheets.
And lobster thermidor.
And
Lobster thermidor.
Never stops. God bless it. It's the joke that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
in the mycelial nightmare that is this ritual chamber, in the presence of a spent and dead Bethany, the red lady takes her Bethany. And content warning, gonna get sexual. The kiss comes with it a flood of some sort of magical mental connection. And there doesn't need to be any touch of the hands beyond the tightness of the embrace to release the exact right flood of chemicals to induce a climax in Bethany.
Bethany's a very pleased person. And is yes, ecstatically happy about this moment and just leans into her red lady and gently collapses with her release and just I'm going to miss you.
And I, you. Return to me only in these moments.
Mm.
But I knew you would be here. I am so proud of you. I wait with bated breath for all that you will become.
I have wanted you since the first moment I saw you. You are incredible. Words have now left her brain. She's trying to explain things and they're gone. So she's just staring again.
And you are singularly exquisite, my dread queen.
Her face, singular, the singular just lights her up. She's, and yeah, I should let you rest so that you can return to me.
And so I shall. I have had, and she sort of chuckles at her own joke, a dark night of the soul in the time you have been gone. And it will take some time to restore myself to proper vim and vigor. And those words are very on purpose.
Yeah.
But when I do, I will return to you with a quickness.
I can't wait. And she stands up on tiptoe to pull the red lady down for one final kiss before she leaves.
Not only does the mycelium in the room have another one of those phosphorescent ripples, but Bethany can feel the illusion itself rippling around her. And as they kiss, it feels like wings are enfolding them tightly for just a few moments. 2, 4, 6 wings holding her infinitely close. And then that energy recedes and the mushrooms still, and they are in a room with uranium glass and a corpse and a table of half-chosen snacks. And she does look over at those and goes, "Do you eat pork rinds? They're very tasty, I discovered."
It is a delicacy I have not encountered.
Oh, you must. David introduced me to them. They're delicious. Take the bag.
Okay.
And she leads Bethany over to the table and sort of gestures that she can take whatever snacks or bottles of booze she wants, except for the small sachet of heroin that had been waiting for Clara.
Yes.
And she pops that into her mouth as if it's a bonbon.
Okay.
And then it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Bethany will collect the pork rinds because they were suggested, but everything else that they could possibly need, they can acquire again elsewhere. And so that is the only thing she will take up from the table.
And the red lady takes her by the arm as a true gentleman would and escorts her down the long, strange, dark mushroom fungus covered, beautiful hallway to the front door of the hospital. Gives her another decidedly more gentle kiss and says, keep them safe. Keep them learning.
I will.
I know.
Best. You always know where to find me.
I do. And she gives her a kiss on the forehead. And says, oh, my regards to dearest David. I shall miss working with him. And she opens the door and holds it.
Bethany comes out to join her siblings and is the happiest they have ever seen her. Like, yeah. And she's carrying a bag of pork rinds.
I will say that the image of Bethany tottering out with like a little bag of pork rinds, like this little expression of like on her face is really, really fucking cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, in my mind, she's got the whole little cloud of pastel hearts like floating up from her shoes and the whole 9 yards.
All right, hotel. Claire climbs in the car. She's very happy for Bethany, but like does that, gonna curl up against the door and maybe sleep the 20 minutes we have to get back to civilization because she's so tired. Home and sheets and shower and other clothes.
Yep. I'd like to again thank Samara for red ladying for us and doing a lot of behind the scenes work. This was not this co-producers and everything else.
Thank
So
you so much.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you all
Yes.
for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to the players. Thank you to the viewers who accepted me and helped me have such a wonderfully good time playing this terrible, terrible person.
Hello and welcome back to the Place of Wrath and Tears. We have returned to our original settings, for which we are thankful. So, David has driven the Van Horsts back to the Tropicana, the beautiful brand new hotel that is absolutely, totally not owned 100% by the mob. Sarcasm. And yeah, it's been a couple weeks, but you guys, it's in terms of returning back, it seems almost as if time has frozen in your rooms. There has been, everything has been very neatly put away. You know, there are fresh towels, everything is folded. The room doesn't even smell like it's been closed up for 2 weeks. So it seems like it has been tended to. Right now, there is essentially no food here. There is whatever dry cleaning or sent out for care clothes have all been put away and put up. It looks exactly like someone has been obsessively maintaining your room in between bouts of mayhem.
Mhm. Thank you, David, for your patience and your care and just for being here. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Matthew will go through the room, kind of almost inspecting it, as like, kind of seeing what's there, seeing what's not been changed, essentially, and like giving sort of the he is someone who has lived with service all his life, and there is an element there of like I am one taking an assessment of what what I have and what I like own, but also that idea of like if someone puts in certain work, you appreciate it, and you show that.
The room has been fairly well tended. The thing that you did notice is it's super duper subtle, but all of the clothes have been arranged, like all of the suits have been arranged in a very specific way that is not the normal, like everything on one hanger sort of. And it is a very specific way that you recognize distinctly because it is the way your closets were arranged at home when you were young.
Huh. Huh. Has this ever been how he's done it before?
Nope.
Okay.
The one thing I would note is that whatever extra money Matthew had, like not his walking around money, but his I brought this with me to spend, some of it has been taken out, but there has also been a to the cent ledger for that, like on a like and notably he did not open any of your ledgers or other tracking books. He started another one on a little piece of hotel note paper.
That's precious. He will actually look over it to see like what was used. Partially because he needs to know and he needs to be able to put that into his own ledgers, but partially because of the fact that he's legitimately like, it's that sort of thing. It's almost like information gathering. Like that sort of like, did you get some weird shit?
Well, it says a lot about David when you learn a lot about David or new David as in this moment, because like there are notations for things that say like travel expenses, parentheses, gasoline, close parentheses.
Yeah.
And some very simple things like that. Like there's a couple of hotel rooms, and then also just on occasion there is just a notation for bribes. Like
I love that he on some hotel paper with like bribes. Love it. Gotta love it. Matthew will come back into the main living room area after kind of getting the thing and pour himself a drink. I am going to let you two take your showers. How many showers do we have in here?
I think we all have our own.
We all have our own? Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, I am going to take a shower.
Yes.
Get changed.
Clara is already stripping. She doesn't care who's in the room. David will turn away. She is out. She's done with these clothes. She is done with everything.
DUN
They can shower whiskey into the shower with her.
Wow. That's like doctorate level shower beer.
Yeah. Yeah, she just pulls a whole tumbler of whiskey, and this is iced tea, but I'm also taking a shower. I love you all. And then disappears.
Yeah. I feel like there's just like there's a moment where they all need to go take showers, except I don't want to assume for you, Bethany.
Oh, Bethany wants to take a bath and is really upset that you're all taking these very brief showers about her life.
I mean, she can take a bath and be like, I'm taking a bath. I don't think we're gonna stop you.
I mean,
yeah, time is squishy. Like you can like everyone
Bethany
can easily take just 6 hours
He won't
about it.
stop you.
And Bethany is here for a bubble bath with like a bottle of champagne and a bag of pork rinds, apparently, because we're going to try these things.
Yes, yes. So
This is
what we're hearing is that Clara is taking her whiskey into the shower.
Yes.
And Bethany is taking her pork rinds into the shower.
Into the bath.
Or into the bath. Into the
Oh,
bath. My
champagne.
apologies.
Excuse me, that might be terrible, and she might need something about this.
Into the bath. And Matthew, because of the fact that he's going to be like, after getting things like set up and such, is going to then join Clara in the shower, is going to be taking Clara out of the shower. And so I feel like their time frames all are actually going to work out.
Work out
That's
fine.
much better. Yes.
Everyone gets to have like their moment of joy
In the
Yes.
shower.
that they desperately needed
In water.
in water.
Yes.
But so I feel like when they come back, they're like, I want us to like have the imagination that we are having actually this very serious conversation all in like big fluffy robes,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
because they're just like,
Yeah.
we need a little bit of luxury. And like I think that like I know that Matthew's not like naked under the big fluffy robe. He probably like has some up, like he's probably like basically doing the equivalent of like a smoking jacket thing going on. But
Yeah.
he's like, no, I will have the comfort robe because I have not had these things for a while.
Mhm.
It is probably you were probably as dirty as you have ever been in your entire
My
life.
entire life.
Yeah.
Like those clothes are being burned.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's vitriol on them, and some of them have been stabbed, and there's corpse dust on them, and blood, and it was an adventure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
David has taken the liberty of ordering an amount of food, all of it light grazing nibble food. You know, not something that you'd have to sit down with a knife and fork and cut into pieces, just like all little things that you could eat at your own speed.
Yeah.
And coffee.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. Good
Fluffy
Lord, they
robe.
made it.
Mhm.
4 more cigarettes, just chain smoking. Coffee, whiskey, and some food.
Mhm.
I feel slightly more human.
Yes.
Slightly.
Matthew will have his neat whiskey in one hand in his little robe, and will look over at David and say, "So, I assume that you have been very busy while we were gone."
Yes, sir. It was a long and complicated process to provide guidance for your return home, and I am glad that it worked.
I'm glad that you were able to help get us home. I am very grateful to you as well.
I'm glad to be of service, sir.
It seems that this experience has made you there have been times in the past that we have had sometimes more disagreements on how to go about things. I have a sense that that is not the case now.
No, sir, it is not.
I'm happy to hear that.
As am I, sir.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened?
I'd be delighted to. Would you like the full details, or would you simply like the high points?
Matthew will look at his sisters. It's clear that he's wanting the full details, but he also knows that they're exhausted.
No, the whole story, please.
When you all went missing, I became very worried after a period of time. And once it became clear to me that you will not be returning in a time frame that I was expecting, I began to assume that you were somehow indisposed. Recognizing I had done some investigating and some tracking, and it had become clear to me that something unexpected had befallen you. And my first assumption, one I will not apologize for, is that she had something to do with it, being a creature of significant power and no small investment in the family. And so I went to discuss the matter with her, and we decided to work together because we agreed that returning the three of you to this, and he kind of does that hand gesture that means Elysium, was both what was desired by us, and we felt comfortable saying that eventually it would be desired by you. And so we acquired some trinitite, which is the glass left over from a nuclear detonation when the sand melts from the heat. And we took it to a creature very much like the lady in red, but also very, very different. She called herself Lady Radium. And she apparently made your father watches? You'll find a new pocket watch in with your other goods. Apparently, sir, the elder Van Horst had it commissioned and then either neglected to acquire it or something else interrupted that process. But its creator has forwarded to you with their best wishes.
I appreciate that.
Being a glassmaker of some skill, Radium was contracted to create a Fresnel lens, which is the intricately shaped lens of a lighthouse, out of the trinitite, and that is what we used to, in part, guide you home. There was some amount of quid pro quo in this process that ended with us in San Francisco attending to a location that had become quite disrupted. And in that process, we also, and he looks at Bethany and in that, like, this is weird of me to say, we also acquired a similar object that we found necessary for this. There was some education and discussion of the process necessary, and then we began building the physical object that you saw to house the Fresnel lens and the other half of the focusing apparatus. I I became distracted at one point, and I allowed myself to be tricked. And it embarrasses me to say so, but I was drawn out from a place into an ambush. And it caused the Red Lady to be not inconsiderably injured. The attackers were using some aspect of her person. She was something complicated about a name that, frankly, I did not understand. And we had a discussion about that. A violent, energetic discussion about that, but we came to terms and reached an accord. And he pauses here. And in as much as David is a very calm version of David right now, it is clear to see that whatever happened next was very personal and very intense. And he has that moment where he kind of gazes into the middle distance and clearly does that. Is this part of the story? Do I need to tell this part, or do I skip ahead to the next chapter sort of moment? Does anyone try to affect that decision?
Matthew gives him like a very active listening look that also kind of gives an implication of like, I am actively listening.
Yeah, I'd like the whole story like I told you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And honestly, for the first time since you have returned, David actually starts to look a little flustered, up to the point of maybe even a small amount of panic. And he says, for occult purposes that I frankly still fail to understand, but were generally explained to me as some form of triangulation, I was sent into the proving grounds to leave markers, to allow the Red Lady to do whatever she found necessary to prepare the apparatus for its signal. In the proving grounds, while I was there was a test detonation.
Oh.
You're alive?
I am here.
Good.
I was on the very edge of it, and so it was not lethal, but it required me to face some internal challenges and some lies that I was telling myself and come to terms with them.
Normally, such a thing would make you not able to survive for long after. That's
One would presume, however, there were some revelations as to what one could say my fundamental nature. And Lady in Red has extensive skills in recovering from esoteric injuries, and so between my internal systems and her attention, I was able to recover most of the damage. It was singularly unpleasant.
I'm glad that you're able to be here with us.
As are we, sir. The next thing that we did was attend to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, south of Pittsburgh by a few hours. And David looks at Bethany, and he has given Bethany some really weird looks in the time that he has worked for the Van Horsts. This one is absolute, I don't want to tell you near panic. This is a very clear, like, he is using his face. He would never say it out loud anymore, but he is using his face to look at Bethany and say, I would really appreciate it if you could give me an out right now, because I don't want to say what's next. Or I don't want to tell you, I think is a more accurate way of saying it.
Just says, it's okay, David.
The lady in red had a collection of, in the asylum, that that numbered in the dozens. And our intent was to pick through them like at a farmer's stall to find the best ones in terms of utility. When we got there, there had been an intrusion. Something had co-opted one of the inmates and had caused most of the other ones to fuse together, and it was very bad. And the lady engaged with this invading presence, and while unsatisfied on some level with the result, declared herself victorious. I attended to the remainder.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. And the biological component of the apparatus was the remaining viable component. And then we came back here and we finished assembly and installation, and then we activated the lighthouse. And it apparently worked.
That is a lot that you had to go through.
I am glad that I was able to.
I'm glad that you were successful.
As am I, sir.
You got us home. It was awful, but you got us home.
It would be improper to minimalize the lady's involvement in this process. She is a robust creature. However, she did, in more than one occurrence, place herself in what I would only assess as the equivalent of mortal danger in order to allow this process to complete.
Is David standing or sitting?
David is absolutely standing. He is at parade rest.
Yeah.
The only time he has broken perfect posture is to look at people, to beg them to let him stop talking. That is the only time. Like, he has been like perfect eye line on the horizon for the rest of the time.
Bleeding heart Clara can't. She gets up and goes over and pulls him into a hug, unless he physically pulls away from her.
He doesn't pull away, but he absolutely locks up a little bit in that, like, I am going to let you do this to me. I am absolutely not reciprocating. This is weird. This is weird. This is weird.
Figured
and
try.
Yeah. Clara, underneath his suit, he has some incorrect shapes.
Huh.
And you cannot hear him breathing.
She holds
and in the time that you lean on him and hug him, you do not feel respiration.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
She holds on for a few tight moments and then pulls back and just grabs his shoulders and looks up and goes, "Thank you. You got us home. You take care of us. You always have. And whatever you are, you're not human. I think we knew that a while ago. You're still a part of our family. You still are the best bodyguard and the best driver and the best person for us. You are part of the band Horsts. Nothing changes that."
I am happy to serve, ma'am. And in that I am happy to serve, you hear, and I am bound to love you.
Yes, I did. Echo in my head. Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Yeah. Clara lets go and goes and refills her whiskey, settles down.
So, you got us back.
Yes, sir.
And we now have to figure out what we're going to do going forward. Going to Metropolis as we did, unprepared, is not something that we're going to ever want to do again.
No.
But we will have to go back, and we will have to be able to reclaim those thrones. Finding out how to do so in a way that succeed in that, what we have to do now. I spoke before of I was thinking that we had to shatter the lie that surrounds us, the peaceful prism. But we need to reforge it. We need to use it. Our power is here in many ways. I want to find a way to bring it with us. The Red Lady mentioned that we have enemies here. The first that come to my mind are the Prince of the Phoenix Society. They didn't seem too much like us before. I have no idea what they've been doing the past 2 weeks.
If the Phoenix Society was in any way, shape, or form involved in the attacks on your things, I imagine that they are in no better mood than when you left.
Probably.
We should check in at home.
Yes.
Make certain our power base is steady. That home is fine. Everything is moving. We have the money we've always had, etc. And then we should check in on them.
I agree.
If we need to gather more power here, I thought about it before, and I still think putting together the review and the show, I can gain us power. I can gain me power and followers and people who I think will march into Metropolis at our beck and call if we make them true believers, and I will. I know I can do that. But building such a thing will take money and time.
I need to make sure that the steelworks is still happening smoothly. I've been away for far too long. And there's only so much I can do via phone calls. I also should reach out to Daniel. But other than that, Bethany, I know that you have the most knowledge outside of this sphere. Do you have any ideas on how we can, myself and Clara both, can work within our purviews?
Making plans to help you do that. I mean, Clara should do the review. That
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying,
absolutely seems to be follow the power. You've felt it now. You know what it feels like. You can find whatever way you need to hold it within you. Draw it out of people. Remember, you don't have to take much.
the power that comes from that, did it feel similar to the vitriol?
In a way. I think so. I mean, there is an ecstasy in taking power. And you both know that. And you've known it here in the illusion far more than I ever have. I only find it taking power as I do now. But that feeling, that's in our blood. You know that we do not kneel. And we walk in and we will take the thrones. And yes, we need the physical manifestations of the power that we know we possess.
Yeah. The reason why I was asking was I wonder if it would be possible to refine that power the way that it was done over there. Something similar. Not to the same extent, but what would that such refinement be? Right now we've had power raw, essentially. What happens if we refine and retool it? I'm spitballing, essentially. It's an idea that I've been thinking of ever since then.
I think it's a good idea. I think that's interesting.
I think with the threats to us, you're going to have to be taking power, Matthew, and commanding people and stepping into what you are already good at doing.
Yes.
The line, what I've discovered, and I'm still stumbling through this, is the line between power and charisma and social importance and actual magic is fairly thin. There will probably come a point where your voice just gets stronger. It's in your blood. I know you can do it, but you will have to mentally control somebody. You will take your power because it is your right, and you're good at doing it. That's why I know I can inspire people performing, and why I think it will be bigger than just a really good show. That I can make people addicted to me the way I was addicted to substances for so long. And that's power. But I don't know, it was more natural. It came more naturally than I thought it would. It does feel very nice when it finally works.
I certainly intend to refine that, to get better at that, and to work on taking when it is not given.
Put the Westmyths under your fucking thumb. I know you
I
can.
know. I will.
I know, baby. I love you.
I love you too.
And for Bethany's benefit, the two best sources of occult information you've ever found was your own father's study
Yep.
and the back rooms of the Phoenix Society chapter house in
Yep.
Pittsburgh. And
Yep.
so there's probably a fairly interesting little
Mhm.
arcanum somewhere in their holdings as well.
Yeah, there's also like Azadeva fluid that's back at the house. That's probably useful.
Yeah,
You know, got that in a jar.
Azadeva squeezins.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to bring back the Azadeva hookah sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we all need sleep. And that possibly, while I don't want to be separated from either of you, you two should go back to Pittsburgh for a little bit to make certain the steel mills are running as they should, to see if there's anything else in Father's office or the house or anything left of the society. And I should stay here and start putting together a show. I don't want to, but it's going to take time.
I don't like the idea of you being left behind, but I think you're right.
I know I am. I don't like it, but I am.
He'll look at David
Mhm.
and say, I will trust you to be able to I will trust that you will protect Clara while we are gone.
Of course, sir. And he says it with the carbon fiber smoothness of a drone. Deliberately anachronistic metaphor.
But yes, we should get sleep.
Sleep in a real bed with real sheets. Yes, sleep.
No, Matthew will get ready to do so.
Yeah. Claire's up and crawling into his bed already.
Yeah.
As I'm going to give a quick coda when they crawl into bed, though, because he will put his hand over Clara's stomach, and he will say, we should have another doctor, or have our doctor look at you while we're out.
I will.
You've been traveling in strange places and strange things are happening, and I just wanted to know that you're both safe.
I will. I promise. I feel fine, if that's any reassurance. I'm better than I was for a long time.
I'm glad to hear it. You're strong. We both are.
Clara looks over to Bethany before she leaves the room. It was the right thing to do. Thank you. There's something missing, and I know it, and I can feel that gap, but it's better this way. I'm better this way. So thank you. Don't ever doubt it.
Asked, and so I did. And I understand what an emptiness feels like. It's all right.
Sleep now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So does anyone, it's a little bit of a short game, but that's okay. We just came back. At least one person crossed the country today.
I like that we were able to like get back into like their dynamics and like the sort of vibes that they each have, and to get kind of our little plot info done.
Yes.
So that we have the perspective of David
Yes.
of the situation, which I think
Yes.
is good also, because
Yeah.
they're always the choices of leaving out what information we leave out, or like we're putting in what information we put in is always good. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm hyped for us to be back.
Yeah. We've got a good plan forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm so sorry that our plan also is we're splitting the party, man.
I know.
Immediately.
We'll troubleshoot it.
Yeah. And that might be hand wavy times. I don't know. Or it might not be, considering the trouble y'all could get into and that I could get into. But
yeah.
Clara mentioned a lot of logic. And I was like, oh no, this is splitting the party is never good, but this is where the work is that we have to do.
Yeah. That's a next Monday Ben problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have some stuff to talk to you about, Ben, later on about visiting Daniel.
Yeah. And just remind us, who is Daniel?
Daniel is Matthew's like, I think he's 8 now. Like he's 7 or 8. He's like 6, he was like 6 to 8, I don't remember exactly. But like he's like his son with his ex-wife, who he was cheating on with his sister. This is fine. This is fine. But yeah, like I mean, it's that sort of thing where like, especially as the stuff that what happened with Clara happened, he's like, oh yeah, I am a dad, and it's a thing that I did because it's what my father told me essentially that I needed to do, and not because I actually wanted to be a father in that way.
Yeah.
But I am one, so I should probably like, I don't know, do anything about that.
Yeah.
So it's fraught.
It's fraught, yes. And so let us close out the return of the Van Horsts. The 3 Van Horsts crawl into 2 beds. Doors are shut and lights are dimmed, and the silence of good construction and thick carpets and voluminous sheets deadens all noise and provides a comfortable, warm silence and safety that the Van Horsts desperately need. And in the absolute pitch black of the room, the meeting room in the middle of this suite, a pair of brass and glowing green eyes, unblinking, stands watch. Because David doesn't need to sleep anymore.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
We're not.
It's ideal. As we make more enemies, we need an unblinking, unsleeping guard.
Hunter killer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, hunter killer
Uh,
robot.
He at some point, like Matthew is gonna get to the point where he's just like, "What the fuck is hunter killer?" But he doesn't want to sound ignorant, so he's like,
yeah.
things that he's gonna be asking Bethany to help look up. You could just ask David, Matthew. Matthew's like,
You
excuse me, that would require me not to have toxic masculinity as a major character facet.
That would
pride will
require
not
open
allow
and
me
direct
to-
communication.
My pride would not allow me to do the obvious communicative thing.
All right.
All right.
So, welcome back, Van Horsts. I'm happy that you're here. Join us in a few weeks as we discover who, what, where, when, why, how about the Westsmiths and get some questions answered and get some answers questioned.
Yeah.
And so, as we always say, use your safety mechanics in play and in life. Take care of yourselves. Know what kind of fun you want to have and make sure you're having the right kind.
Mm-hmm.
And, drink your water.
Yep.
So we thank you very much, and we will see you in a little bit.
See you later,
Yeah.
everybody.